Now, Maike Mullenders was just 21 when police broke the devastating news that her father had taken his own life. Not only that, but he also left behind a handwritten confession suggesting that he'd been physically inappropriate with her. This is her remarkable journey to hope and peace after her father's chilling final message pushed her to the brink of insanity. She joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us today, Maike.
Absolute pleasure. Hi, Selina.
Hi there. Wow, what a thing to happen. Had you blocked it from your memory then? Had it happened?
Well, I don't want to give away the end of the book, but I think disassociation played a big part in how I coped with everything that went on when I was younger. And so, yeah, I guess in some way you could say I did block it. I think the mind is incredible in the way that it protects us.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you there. So it's hard enough losing your father. That's the first thing. And then to suicide. And then the letter that he'd written you, which, if it was true, and as you say, you don't want to give any spoilers, but if it was true, yeah. I suspect came from guilt.
Absolutely. And I think suicide in itself is just such a challenging way to lose anyone. And it comes along with so much guilt and so many, should I have done this? Could I have stopped it? It's very different to any other form of grief, really. It's complex grief as I talk about it in that way.
Did you have, I know that you had counselling sessions, were they specific then for somebody who'd suffered a suicide in the family?
So through the book, I recount sessions with various counsellors, and it was really only when I found a counsellor who wasn't specialised in suicide bereavement as such, but he just, I don't know, he made a safe space for me. And I always say that he set out to reparent me. Uh-huh. And I think that's when a massive change took place. But I now volunteer for a charity called SOBS, so Survivors of Bereavement by Suicide. And I think, you're right when you asked the question, was it someone who was specialised? There is something about talking to people who have had that same experience that is just so consoling and so beneficial, because you just go, wow, all these complex things I'm feeling, I'm not on my own. So even though I didn't have that at the time my father died, when I did find it 25 years later, it still helped me incredibly.
So how old were you, if you don't mind me asking, when it happened?
So I was 21 when he actually took his life, but he had tried to take his life previously 2 times that I know of. And in fact, I think for me, the hardest part of reading the book when I look at it now is that when I was 11, he actually told me to say goodbye to him because he was going to take his own life.
Oh, wow.
And, even now I go, how did that 11-year-old comprehend that? It's bizarre, and I, crazily enough, I had a ballet exam the next day. And before I left the house, I was told to pack my ballet things so I could go to my ballet exam. But then how would you do a ballet exam if your father had passed away? I mean, it was just
it's horrific.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's horrific. Yeah. Was your mother around, Maike?
She was. And I think it was a very complex relationship that my parents had. And she was 25 years younger than my father. So there were just so many different things that came into play.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And I know, as well as the counselling, you spent the next 20 years trying to uncover the truth. I mean, how do you go about trying to uncover the truth? Who do you ask if your father's no longer there?
Yeah, I think so. I hoped that it would, very naively, I hoped that I would just have a memory of it, that there would be some kind of, I don't know, flashback, or that it would come to me in a dream, or I don't know. And so I guess then in the therapy sessions, I was able to sort of talk through the way that I behaved, and was that the type of behavior that someone who had been abused would do. So yeah, the therapy helped. Then I also had, because I then started training as a yoga teacher, I had the most incredible experiences during meditation. And in a way, again, without doing a spoiler, it was really in one of those meditation sessions that I got my answer.
Right. Okay. And I guess it's a difficult thing, because should you unearth those memories? Should you get the answer? Or are you better off letting your brain block it out because it was probably too horrific for you?
And I think there is definitely something in that. And I think for me, there came a point when, having scrabbled around for so long to try and unearth this answer, because it seemed like the only way that I could go on, I got to a point where I went, actually, I just want to live. I just want to be happy. I want to move on from this. But I think it's difficult because in a way, it felt like a betrayal of myself, of the little girl who'd gone through all this stuff and had managed to contain some sense of sanity. I sort of almost felt that I owed it to her to know what the truth was. And then I suddenly went, no, I don't owe that to her. I owe it to her to live a life and to be happy and to thrive, basically.
Yeah. It's probably the best sort of approach to it, I would imagine.
Yeah. Just took a while to get there, but better late than never.
Yeah. And you mentioned yoga. I've just got your website up and it's making me feel sleepy looking at that beautiful blue water. But I like the tagline here. It says, yoga is not about touching your toes. It's what you learn on the way down. So it taught you a lot, did it, yoga?
It really did. It taught me to let go, to accept. Also, it taught me to take care of myself. I think when I first started my yoga journey, I was incredibly competitive, always sort of looking at the people next to me going, oh, they're a bit bendier than I am. And then it was just this sudden realization that actually it felt really great to be in contact with my own body, to feel my own body getting stronger and more supple. And yeah, it gave me a lot of confidence as well.
Because you're a trained actress, I believe.
Yes, so that's where I started out. I did my degree in acting, and I did work as an actress for 5-6 years, doing, the usual Coronation Street, Holby City, all those kind of things, and I loved it. But it's a tough profession, I think, particularly as a woman. There's a lot of competition, and I just got to the point where I thought, I want to do something more meaningful. I got quite frustrated, I think. Yeah. And Douglas Wright, who wrote the book with you, he's also a trained actor. I know he doesn't act now, but have you written the book together then? I didn't know he was a trained actor.
That's what it says on the press release, yes.
Oh, he kept that quiet. So what was lovely, I tried to write the book on my own, and then I showed it to a friend of mine who's a writer, and she just went, no, Maike, that's not going to work. You need some help. And so I just started to look for ghostwriters, and I stumbled across Douglas, and he was just brilliant. He really liked the idea. And he said, there's definitely something in all that. And then I guess the way we worked together is that I just wrote my life story then from beginning to now in this big ramble of consciousness. And he sort of framed it into chapters and paragraphs. But it must have been incredibly frustrating for him working with me at times, I'm sure, because he'd go, "Ooh, can we have a bit more detail on that?" And I'd just be going, "Can't remember." And And then I'd go, no, that happened first. And then I'd phone him half an hour later and go, no, it didn't. That must have happened first. So the poor guy must have been going, this woman, she has no memory. She's trying to write a book.
Oh, but it's hard though, isn't it? It's hard to go back. I mean, you know, as yourself, when you said about blocking out, it's hard to go back. And I mean, I can't think what my earliest memory was. It certainly wasn't as way back as 5. You know, I certainly can't remember. Probably about 11 or 12, maybe.
Totally. I do really remember secondary school.
Yeah.
But yeah, prior to that, it's a bit vague.
Well, as I said, I've got your website up. So you are, is that what you mainly do now? You're a yoga teacher?
Yes, absolutely. So I started as an actress and then I worked as a counsellor for a while, but I found that it was really challenging because I was working with vulnerable young people. And there was always this fear that the worst thing could happen, that one of them would take their own lives. And I think because of what happened with my dad, that suddenly became a reality. It was something that it wasn't an abstract concept anymore. And I just realized that it wasn't helping my own mental health. So, so I moved over to doing yoga, and it was just fantastic. So where the therapy had helped me to understand myself, what the yoga actually helped me to do was to change all the coping strategies that I'd put in place for myself as a child. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good idea. I can see from looking at that how it could possibly help. And like you say, meditation, there's nothing better than meditation to sort of just get you out of yourself.
Absolutely, totally. And just to breathe, I think when we get anxious and stressed, you know, everything sort of gets pent up and it becomes much bigger than it is. And the mind starts to overthink, and it never leads to good things, overthinking, I don't think.
Yeah. Do you want to give your web address out for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's MaikeMullenders.com.
And Maike is spelled M-A-I-K-E?
Yeah, Mullenders.
Now that, I believe, is because you spent your early childhood in the Netherlands. Is that correct?
It is, yes. So I was born in the Netherlands. Both my parents are Dutch. And then we moved over to England when I was nearly 5. So, yes, although I am officially Dutch, I've really lived in England most of my life. But it's meant that certainly my early childhood was quite isolated because all my family were back in the Netherlands, and it was just my parents and myself in those early years. I now have an incredible family of my own who are my absolute pride and joy.
Aww.
So yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm glad you came out the other side. It's a fascinating story, and I think an inspirational one for other people as well. We're selling the book on our website. If our listeners want to buy it, simply go to the bookshop on TRE.radio. It's called The Confession, A Journey to Acceptance, and it's by Maike Mullenders, who we're chatting to now. Maike, it's been a great chat with you. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.